You having an unnatural allegiance to losers is not like you.
The Washington Wizards have a guard problem. Again, let's talk about it. So the Wizards haven't had a crazy amount of guard talent as of late, despite us not being the most decorated franchise in NBA history, to say the least. We have had our fair share of elite guards, especially point guards in our day. Whether you talk about Arenas in the late 2000s, whether you talk about John Wall in the late 2010s, you can even talk about the 1 year with Westbrook, which was pretty fun to watch in my opinion. Bradley Beal, as much as people hate him, was amazing in most of his tenure in Washington. We've had our fair share of really dominant guards, but as of late, something just seems off. Whether it be Bradley Beal magically losing his ability to be a high-level player as well as stay healthy, whether it be Jordan Poole seemingly forgetting how to play basketball as soon as he put on a Wizards jersey, whether it be Johnny Davis also forgetting how to play basketball as soon as he put on a Wizards jersey, whether it be Monte Morris also forgetting how to play basketball when he puts on a Wizards jersey. Wow, a lot of people seem to forget how to play basketball when they put on a Wizards jersey. But why is that? Especially lately. Why do guards forget how to play basketball when they come to Washington? I was watching the Wizards game today against the Thunder. Your typical Wizards game, but we made it closer than most of our games have been lately. We got blown out by Cleveland, got blown out by New York, but tonight again OKC, who ironically is the best of the teams we've played lately, at least record-wise. There was something about our team that was able to hang in there, put up a fight. One of those things was us showing some defensive muscle in bits and pieces. This was not long-lasting at all or consistent, as demonstrated by Chet being wide open for a three and literally laughing at how open he was. But a differentiator tonight was Jordan Poole. He had his first good game in a few games. He finished the game with 24 points. He had 15 points in the third quarter. And following this 15-point run in the third quarter, I realized something. Because he hadn't played 8 minutes, the first 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, which, even if in foul trouble, that is a long time to sit a player, especially when he is very hot and keeping you in the game and is the type of player who needs to be hot to be impactful. So sitting him for the last 8 minutes was another decision in the long string of questionable decisions of our coach, Wes Unseld Jr., who we all know and love. But ironically, this was one of the least questionable ones, as yes, personally, I would have put him in the game because he's hot. You don't want him to cool down because he's impacting the game right now. But I understand with 5 players, you want to preserve him for the end of the game. But by the end of the game, it didn't really matter because all the momentum was lost. But the interesting conversation this made me think about, and I'm still so bothered by the fact it took me so long to realize this, was there is a lot of similarities this year to Jordan Poole, to specifically Bradley Beal's first year under Wes Unseld Jr. Specifically that first year. Last year, it's not like he was great, but at least he was efficient despite that volume being way down. But the same way Jordan Poole is uncharacteristically bad compared to last year, where he was still not great compared to the year before, but at least statistically he was good. He was okay. If you ignored efficiency, he was good. But let's focus on Bradley Beal, first year under Wes Unseld Jr. He averaged 23.2 points per game, 6.6 assists, mostly worried about the scoring right now since he was the 2. 23.2 points per game, 45% from the field, 19 attempts per game, 5.3 three-point attempts, which would continue a trend of him going to the shooting threes way less, which has continued since then. As well as only 5.1 free throws a game. Not bad, but again, when I compare them to the stats of the previous year, it's like, holy shit. The previous year, the last year of Scott Brooks, he averaged 31.3 points on 23 attempts per game, 48.5% from the field, 35% from three on 6.2 attempts. By the way, his first year at Wedge, he shot 30% from three. So lower volume, way lower efficiency. And he got to the free throw line 7.7 times a game. The year before, even when Westbrook wasn't there, he got to the line 8 times. And again, Bradley Beal isn't the healthiest of people, so his games played since 2018-19 have been down the drain. He's played 60 once, and it's just sad to see, man. I personally like Bradley Beal. Most of his tenure in Washington was amazing, so it's sad to see. Now, the thing I'm going to talk about is the usage rate, because I'm not this super analytical advanced stat guy, but I like usage rate specifically as a stat because it reflects a player's usage relative to their minutes, relative to how much of a percentage of their plays they're used in. Bradley Beal's usage rate that last year under Scott Brooks was 34.1%. Keep in mind, this is alongside Russell Westbrook, who is one of the highest usage players in NBA history. Literally in NBA history. 34.1%. Scott Brooks did not do many things well as a coach. He lost us plenty of playoff series, plenty of games we shouldn't have lost, but one thing he understood how to do was how to let his guard talent play like themselves. Play to their strengths. Even if he didn't elevate those strengths, he at least let them play to those strengths. Wes Unseld Jr., even though Westbrook isn't on the team anymore, now the point guard is Spencer Dinwiddie, fresh off an ACL injury, on a new contract. Bradley Beal's usage now as the clear, no diff number one, goes from a usage of 34.1 to a usage of 30.8, which would go down to 29.2 the following year, even though he's playing with an even lower usage point guard than Spencer Dinwiddie and Monte Morris. And this would start the course of the assist-to-turnover ratio gods of the Washington Wizards. So his field goal attempts went down, three-point attempts went down, free throw attempts went down, his usage went down, his points per game went down, all as soon as Wes Unseld Jr. became coach. Now, I'm going to be transparent. Wes Unseld isn't the only junior. Wes Unseld Jr. isn't the only contributor to Bradley Beal's likely downfall. He'd been the league leader in minutes a few times prior to the hiring. He's already injury prone and he'd suffered a string of lower body injuries. And this is most evident when you look at the lower free throw percentage. The tendency of driving to the basket was lower, but what's really glaring is how his three-point attempts is going lower, which makes so little sense considering that his three-point shot is what he's been known for. Prior to that, he'd always been a high volume, high efficiency type of guy. And even when he was shooting upwards of 8, 7, 6 threes a game, he was still shooting at a 35% clip, which is about league average. So when you're shooting that many attempts, that's pretty good. All this to say, Bradley Beal, once Wes Unseld Jr. came, would start a trend of playing worse. He'd never look the same again. And now in Phoenix, you can argue, but he's under Frank Vogel. But at this point, he's 30 versus when Wes Unseld Jr. was first hired. He was 28, fresh off of the best season of his career. So the parallels there are very different than comparing right now where he's 30, fresh off of a slew of injuries, and he's being coached by a defensive coach. He's had a ton of injuries. He's the third option. So much context goes into why that's different than him going into a season as the first option under a new coach, fresh off of the best season of his career. Now, how I tie that to Jordan Poole, whose situation is very similar, minus the injuries, which is where I'm going to get into the concerns I have with Jordan Poole, because he is a lot younger. Similarly, he's not on the best contract, but when we compare Jordan Poole's last year in the Bay, 20 points per game, 15 and a half field goal attempts, 43%. His efficiency was down from the year before. Obviously, the whole punch incident happened, but he was still a decent player. Not quite as high promise, amazing as he was the year before, but he was still decent. He was still relatively pretty good, still a good NBA player, at least relative to now where it's like, what the hell is going on? So, 29.2% usage rate. This is playing with Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, all these guys, obviously the main core of the Golden State Warriors championship run the year before. Probably at most the second option at times, mostly the third, fourth, fifth option, right? And mostly the third, fourth, fifth creator, right? Now, fast forward this year in Washington, his points per game all the way down to 16. His efficiency is down. His field goals are down by almost 2. His three-point attempts are down, crazy enough. His free throw attempts are down from 5.1 to 3.1. His assists are down, still high turnovers, but we're not using him as a playmaker. He's not been used as a playmaker in his career. And his usage rate is down to 26.4, which is akin to his best season in Golden State, where he helped significantly in that championship run. So you'd think with that low usage rate, he'd be more efficient. Well, nope, guess what? He's having the same Bradley Beal effect as his first year under Wes Unseld Jr., where his efficiency completely tanks. Everything about his game completely tanks. And now he doesn't even look like an NBA player, and he's getting overpaid. And it's like, what the hell is going on? And guess what? Look at the guards they're playing next to. You'd think, maybe Poole is carrying a lot of the offense. Maybe he's creating a lot. Nope. It's been strictly the Tyus Jones show. It's been, for the most part, the Tyus Jones show. I will admit Tyus Jones has been a lot more fun to watch than he was previously, because to start this season, I was not enjoying watching him. He had like one good game. Every other game, it just felt like he was standing there. Now it actually seems like he's taking command of the offense, being a point guard. That floater never misses. He has been definitively fun to watch. But the problem still remains, where it's a lot of assist-to-turnover ratio, point guard, Poole, 7 seconds left, create something. Or Poole, we feel bad, here's a possession, do whatever you want. It doesn't feel like any sets are being ran for the guy, realistically. And ironically enough, I kind of got the same sense with Johnny Davis. He's not as good of an example, because even when he was drafted, I had the sense he was drafted too high. We all knew that Tommy Shepard was never very thorough of his draft selections, and there are so many draft selections to back that up. But we're not here to talk about Tommy's draft selections. The point being, Johnny Davis in college was a low efficiency, high volume, but flashes of possibly being efficient shot creator. He got to the rim very well, showed a lot of mid-range promise, was a willing three-point shooter, didn't really have any playmaking chops, but you could be hopeful he could play like a Jordan Clarkson, Tyler Hero role, maybe if he got that playmaking up a little bit. And he showed a lot of motor as a defender at times, so there was something there. Still took him too high, but there was something there. But oh wait, we drafted a shooting guard with Wes Unseld Jr. as our coach. So, in college, last year in Wisconsin, 20 point per game score, 16 attempts, 43% from the field, 3.9 3-point attempts per game, 31%, 6.3 free throws per game, and a 32.5 usage rate. We don't expect any of that usage and field goal attempts to convey, because he's a rookie. He's adjusting to the NBA. But the concerning area with him is when you look at his per 36 numbers for his rookie year. I'm not even going into this year, because his jump shot is all the way cooked, like sophomore Markelle Fultz cooked. He's been injured. He hasn't been playing. There's just the way we've managed him, the way Unseld has managed him has just been so sad. But what do you expect of a Tommy Shepard draft project? So he's averaged, in his rookie year, he averaged 13.9 points per game, 14.6 field goal attempts where he would shoot 39%. He looked decent to end the year. Those last few games where we were bad and Corey Kispert was our first option because Beal wasn't playing, Kuzma wasn't playing, KP wasn't playing. By the way, love Corey Kispert. 6 3-point attempts per game. That's promising. 24%, but it's promising. He's taking them until we ruined the jump shot. But 2.3 free throws attempts. This was where I was concerned because he's not getting to the basket. He's not getting to the mid-range, which are the two strongest aspects of his game. Oh, wait. The two strongest aspects of his game that he's not being played to. He's not being played to his strengths. A shooting guard on our team not being played to his strengths. Where have I seen this before? And then let's talk about Spencer Dinwiddie for a second. I don't like Spencer Dinwiddie. No Wizards fan likes Spencer Dinwiddie. He was horrible for us. We gave him a lot of money. But call a spade a spade. He wasn't set up for success. And when you look at our coach's history of coaching combo guards, no wonder a backcourt of combo guards didn't work well together. This dude had the worst stretch of his career coming off of an ACL. We trade him to Dallas, and he goes on a heater and plays amazing. Now, the reason I'm not even going to bother showing the Dallas stats is because after leaving Dallas, his Brooklyn numbers would basically look like his Wizards numbers because he's not that effective as a player. He's very much just high volume, high usage. He's not super useful or impactful outside of a few clutch moments, I'll admit. But he was playing with Luka. His numbers looked great. He hit open shots. He was playing his role really well in Dallas. Immediately after having one of the worst stretches I've ever seen anyone have in a Wizards jersey. Oh, look, another guard who came to DC and forgot what basketball was, who forgot what shot making was. But he played with Luka. Dante Exums looked amazing with Luka. Derrick Jones Jr. looked amazing with Luka. Luka is one of them ones. Playmaking phenom, knows how to make people better. So that's why I'm not showing Dinwiddie's numbers, but he is another example of a guard absolutely collapsing as a player, falling off a cliff as a player under Wes Unseld Jr.'s system. So when you look at all these parallels, Beal, Poole, Johnny Davis, Dinwiddie, Monte basically lost his NBA career in Washington because now he's been injured all season, and even when he comes back, he's like a millionth in the Detroit rotation behind Marcus Sasser, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, all these people. So hell, even Killian Hayes. So his career basically died in Washington after being traded. The only player who's a guard who's been decently successful under Wes Unseld Jr. is DeLon Wright because he's a low usage. He's not really an offensive player. He just plays good defense. So there's not much for what Unseld to mess up offensively because he doesn't do much offense. But when you look at this trend, and me personally, my favorite draft prospect has been Nikola Topic. Now, I've seen some people lean towards Sarr. I've seen some people lean towards Collier. Some people lean towards Holland. Topic is the guy for me. He's the only guy in the draft I see that can be an offensive option, an offensive hub, as so to speak. The guy who can lead an offense. I look at him and I'm like, man, as much as I love him as a prospect, I don't want to, because he is a combo guard right now, I don't want him to be drafted to us and then he's just the bailout player who has to watch Kuzma or even Jordan Poole, Kuzma if he's still here, or even Jordan Poole or even Denny do whatever in the shot clock and then he gets the ball the fast few possessions, or watch him not be put in positions to succeed by Unseld because he just doesn't seem to know how to put guards in the position to succeed. He just doesn't. And even in Denver, he was an assistant, obviously. But even Denver, you could look at multiple guards. Now, I'm not going to say multiple. I'm not a Denver fan. But Gary Harris had a fall off in Denver, you know. Quite a few guards in Denver kind of had a bit of a fall off. And I'm not saying that was Lawson. I'm not saying that was Unseld. Obviously, Jamal Murray was a huge breakout. But I'm saying there might be hints there. You know, there might be hints, little trickles in Unseld's track record that suggests that maybe this dude doesn't know how to coach guards. And I think based on the last 3 years of him, 2.5 years of him being our coach, there's been so much evidence to suggest that the dude knows how to coach bigs for the most part. The dude knows how to coach wings for the most part, despite him using Denny as a corner three-point shooter for like the last 2 years. And finally this year seems to just be using him as Kuz Jr. when Kuz isn't in the game. He literally is just using him as Kuz Jr. He plays just like Kuz now, despite being a better transition playmaker and playmaker overall. But, yeah, I don't want to draft a guard if Unseld is our coach. And I know we picked up his option and he's not getting fired this year. He's not getting fired during the season. Maybe during the offseason, possibly. I don't think it's likely. I think he probably finishes his contract or gets fired in like the second half of his last year, but that's being hopeful. I don't want to have a rookie guard playing under this coach. I don't want any guard who's a big part of our future playing under this coach, and it sucks because you look at guys like Garnett and Arenas, who had high expectations for Poole. We're talking about, oh, he's the next James Harden, 28 points per game. And the reason I never expected that was because Unseld's our coach, and no guard excels under Wes Unseld Jr. No guard is averaging over 25 points per game on Wes Unseld Jr.'s team. Bradley Beal, who's a far more mature and polished version of Jordan Poole, struggled under Wes Unseld Jr. So I don't know what we were expecting of Poole. I was optimistic. Maybe he could be a 22, 23 point per game scorer on okay efficiency, slightly higher usage, slightly higher volume than Golden State. But we didn't even get that. We somehow got lower usage than when he was a bench player. Somehow. Now, I am holding Poole accountable. His shot selection, especially to start the year, atrocious. But again, not being put in positions to succeed necessarily, but the defensive effort isn't there. Now, I will say the bad teammate shit, I don't see it. The attitude stretch, like, it's such a stretch. Nothing suggests his attitude is bad. Nothing suggests that he's a bad teammate. Literally, I posted on Twitter that a clip of him and Denny chopping it up like they're homies. I don't know if they're homies, but to say they don't like each other based off of one clip in the preseason of him waving Denny, of him missing Denny when he's wide open is crazy. To just push this narrative that they don't like each other for a whole season, but that's NBA media for you. But all in all, if we get the first pick, whatever pick we get, take a big, take a wing until Wes Unseld Jr. is gone. We got so lucky that Bilal's a wing. He has guard potential, but I just don't want him to mess up Bilal. But I think Bilal is raw enough and he's young enough where he will be good. And I can't wait till the trade deadline so that he gets the playing time and the role he deserves. I'm not in the camp of let Bilal take 20 shots a game because that's too much. You don't develop a player by just giving them a ton of shot attempts per game. You do have to develop them into a role, into a type of player. But I am very optimistic of Bilal and Denny's fit moving forward. My biggest gripe with Unseld Jr., besides his use of guards notoriously, is his refusal to play Denny and Bilal consistently together as if those two aren't our two best young assets or two future young players. Because the lineups where Denny, Bilal, and Corey Kispert play together have been my favorite to watch, and I don't have the stats on me to back this up, but I think that's one of our best lineups when those three are on the court together. When those three and Gaff and probably Poole are on the court together as the five-man lineup. And that's the lineup I want to see start. But with Tyus here, that's not going to happen. With Kuz here, sadly, that's not going to happen. I'm of the camp of I'm fine with keeping Kuz unless there's a deal we can't refuse. I'm fine with keeping Kuz because if you don't have veteran talent that's a vocal locker room leader, you'll end up like Houston was the last few years. You'll end up like Detroit has been this season. But main point being, don't draft Topic, sadly. Unless Topic is just one of them ones and he's like Luka and he don't care about no coaching, he's going to be him regardless, but I don't think he's quite that player. I think you do need some development there. I do think he's a player you need to put in positions to succeed, and I don't think Unseld Jr. is going to do that. But this has been really fun to talk about. It was really interesting to notice this trend. Again, still mad at myself for taking so long, but it's such an obvious trend, and so many people realized it alongside with me, and shout out to everybody who did. Shout out to Greg Finberg. He's an amazing dude, pillar of the Wizards community. He always hosts spaces. He's always he gets some pressers sometimes where he's able to ask the players or a coach some questions, and just great dude. Shout out to everybody in the Wizards community. It was fun to talk about. I hope I can come up with more topics like this to talk about, have conversations about, do research about. It's really fun to do research on something about the Wizards. They're so bad that it's hard to find trends to talk about, but this is an interesting one. Despite it being negative, it is interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see how Poole develops as the one after the trade deadline, because they'll essentially be forced to use him more. And it'll be interesting to see how Denny continues to develop as a point forward since he's getting those playmaking opportunities. But it's been very fun to talk about this, and thank you guys for hearing me out.
That's the nature of the league, and it is what it is.